Hi there, it's Kathy, the dietitian from Highland Primary Care in Airdrie, with your third bite-sized piece of Slice of Happiness. Today we're going to talk a little bit about activity and flow, a very specific kind of activity, flow activities, and also just a little bit about overthinking. So I hope you enjoy. So first thing, one of the best things we can do for stress or when life gets hectic, trying to keep it simple, just keeping our feet moving. Even beyond that, just getting outside, even if you're not being physically active, can be very good for stress reduction. But being physically active, it's like helping our body learn how to deal with stress. So it gives us a little bit of stress and then we learn how to recover. It brings everything back down to baseline. So physical activity can be really, really important. And it doesn't have to be huge. If you decide you haven't been active before and you want to do a 10-minute walk after dinner on Mondays, that's fantastic. That's a great starting point. So one of the things that our kinesiologist talks about is it's like a rule, like a 5-60 rule. So for every 60 minutes you sit, you get up for 5 minutes. And even if you can't get up for 5 minutes, you just get up for 1 minute. When you think about that, if we're up, 13, 14 hours in a day, that's 14 minutes of activity that we didn't do before. So that's really interesting and can kind of combat the negative effects of sitting all the time. So something to think about. A little bit, it is worth it and it's meaningful. So flow activity is a very specific type of activity, and research has shown that when people experience flow activities, that they tend to be happier. So what's a flow activity? Flow develops when you choose something you're interested in. It needs to involve your effort or skill, so it can't be something very mindless for you. It's something that challenges you, that you'll have to set a goal and maybe pushes you just beyond your comfort zone. So yeah, you can tell if your activity is a quote unquote flow activity. Does it challenge you? Here's the questions. Does it challenge you? Does it have some guidelines or rules around it? Or maybe even, is there some sort of outcome, right? Is there a goal? Do you use effort? So typically flow activities have some effort involved. Do you get feedback? Do you know when you're doing it well? Do you know when you're not doing it well and you need to adjust? Does it require our full attention? Are you enjoying it? And I think the biggest predictor of flow activities is, do you lose track of time when you're doing it? So yeah, lots of things could be flow activities. Sometimes what always comes to mind for me is more active things like snowboarding or biking or something that I'm very challenged with, but there's lots of other things that could be flow activities as well, as long as they're challenging you. Like say quilting or something like that, where you're really fully engaged in it and you can lose track of time. Definitely, like golfing is a flow activity for some people. For me, it's just frustration, but for some people it's a flow activity because there's definitely a goal. And it's challenging, very challenging, and typically if you practice at it, you get better at it, those kinds of ideas. So if you don't have a flow activity right now, it's kind of interesting just to think about things that you like to do, that maybe you used to do as a kid and you don't do anymore, and maybe looking at what activity you can add in that might give you that flow activity. So yeah, it makes us really engaged with our lives. And I think when you have a flow activity that you really love, it can help you get through the harder times. So they say in the happiness class, it saturates our life with meaning. It gives us a purpose. So we get more richness and intensity and definitely greater happiness, right? Something to look forward to, something to work at, something to challenge ourselves with. And like I said, it encourages us to grow or be challenged, right? So the only thing about flow activities is yeah, we get better at them over time, and then they're not so challenging anymore. So usually we have to sort of set the bar a little bit higher for ourselves. So just something to think about there. Just make some adaptations and move to a greater challenge. So yeah, experiencing flow is one of the strongest predictors of happiness. And you could have more than one flow activity because some things are seasonal. And the more activities you have, you tend to be a little slower at adapting to them, right? So yeah, so play around with it. See if you can find your flow activity. Maybe you already have it, but you didn't know it was a flow activity. Or maybe you haven't had something like that and you can find something that will give you some more happiness. So and then the other thing we were going to talk about today was just a little bit of overthinking. So how do we know? I think we all overthink from time to time. Some of us are worse at it than others, or worse overthinkers than others. How do you know if you're overthinking? If you're repeatedly asking yourself why, if you repeat the same negative sentence stories and pictures, if you say a lot of shoulda, coulda, wouldas, and you get stuck in the same thought loop. Because that kind of thinking is just, it's like a rocking chair. It's keeping you busy, but it's not getting you anywhere. It's not to say there aren't problems in the world that are worth spending some of our time on, but typically when we're in overthinking, we're not actually doing anything productive. We're just, making ourselves angry or frustrated or overwhelmed. So, to short circuit overthinking, the only thing you can do is start to recognize it and try to get out of the thought loops. I think one of the biggest things we can do is just have a pause so that we can recognize, or that we can have the choice to say, is this a thought I want to follow, or is this something I'm going to let go? Yeah, trying to stop overthinking. I like this analogy. It's like trying to push a beach ball underwater, and you're trying to push so hard, and the harder you are, the harder the thought comes up. I always use the example, like if I say to you, don't think about a red car with yellow polka dots, what's the first thing you think of is a red car with yellow polka dots, and you can't help yourself from thinking that. So yeah, but just kind of noticing what's there. And sometimes when you have a pause, then you can choose, is this a thought I want to follow, or is this one I can let go? So yeah, you can pick up the beach ball differently and then throw it. If you focus on something differently, right? Focus to get a different perspective. Yeah, so that's all for today. Like I said, it's just a bite-sized slice of happiness, so very short. If you kind of want more tips like this and wonder how they work for you as an individual, you're most welcome to connect with the medical home team. So if you doctor from Airdrie out to Didsbury, you are part of the Highland PCN, and you have a nurse and social worker embedded right in your medical home, and you can book with them directly to speak with them. So we also do have some resources like our Facebook page, so Highland Primary Care Network, all typed out, and we usually post any new things that we're sharing. And we also have our webpage, which is www.hpcn.ca, and under programs, if you go to Health Improvement Program, you'll find links to our classes and our YouTube channel, and lots of resources and handouts, and even some of our PowerPoint presentations are there. So that was real quick. I hope that's helpful. I know this one takes a little bit more work, homework, I guess, or just home study to bring it to fruition, but it's worth sharing because it definitely does make a big difference to our happiness. And yeah, that's all for today. So take care. Look for our last bite-sized slice of happiness. It should be posted soon. Okay, take care. Talk soon. Bye-bye.